was struggling to escape. Dust cascaded from the ceiling, and the iron chains clanged together, ringing like funeral bells. Imran stepped back, his arrogance faltering. It it moved by itself. Saphire's voice cracked. We warned you. The curse is real. This isn't some fairy tale. The torches flickered violently, their flames shrinking to weak, sputtering sparks. Then, darkness. For a moment, they were swallowed whole by pitch black. No sound, no light, only the pounding of 6 terrified hearts. And then the sound came. A slow, rattling breath. Ancient, broken lungs dragging in air for the first time in thousands of years. The sound of dry bandages stretching, tearing. The muffled crack of bone bending unnaturally back to place. The sarcophagus lid slid an inch, then another, until with a thunderous crash it toppled to the floor. Inside, the mummy stirred. Anna gasped, clutching David's arm. It's moving! The creature's withered hands twitched, blackened fingers clawing at the air. The bandages peeled away like old snakeskin, revealing grey, leathery flesh beneath. Its skull-like face was hidden behind a jagged obsidian mask carved with cruel symbols. Mark raised his camera, his hands shaking. This is insane. I'm filming this. But his camera flickered, the screen turning to static. The battery drained instantly, dying in his hands. The mummy's chest rose and fell with a guttural groan that shook the very floor beneath them. Then its eyes snapped open. 2 glowing green orbs burned from the darkness. Saphire stumbled backward, whispering in horror. The eyes of Ra, oh God, they're real. The mummy's head jerked, its jaw cracking open. From deep inside came a voice, not of flesh, but of death itself. Who dares disturb my eternal rest? The words echoed in the chamber, resonating inside their skulls. The sound was not just heard, it was felt, vibrating in their bones. Imran's greed briefly overcame his terror. He stepped forward, forcing a grin. We came to honor you, great pharaoh. We want to share your treasures with the world. The mummy tilted its head, slow and unnatural. You will share nothing. Your souls are mine. With a deafening roar, the mummy rose from the coffin. Sand burst upward as if the desert itself obeyed him. The chains binding the sarcophagus shattered, the fragments whirling around like blades before embedding into the stone walls. David grabbed Saphire's hand. Run. The 6 of them bolted toward the corridor. Their footsteps thundered against the stone floor as the torches reignited behind them, burning green instead of orange. The light cast monstrous, twisted shadows on the walls, each one slithering after them like snakes. They reached a fork in the passage. Panic seized them. This way, David shouted, pointing left. No, here! Imran argued, pulling toward the right, but before they could decide, the air turned icy. The walls themselves seemed to groan. And then, a shadow stretched unnaturally along the floor, racing toward them. Mark screamed as the shadow surged upward, wrapping around him like a living cloak. His torch hit the ground, extinguished. The others could only watch as he was dragged backward into the darkness, kicking and clawing. Help me, he shrieked. His voice cut off in a strangled gasp, followed by silence. When they turned, the corridor was empty. Only his camera remained on the floor, cracked and useless. Anna's face drained of color. He's gone. David's voice broke. We need to keep moving, now. They stumbled deeper into the tomb. Every passage looked the same, yet something felt wrong. The hieroglyphs on the walls, they had changed. Where once they depicted rituals and warnings, now the carvings showed them 6 travelers entering the tomb. And in the final panel, 6 figures kneeling before the pharaoh as he devoured their souls. Layla's breath hitched. It's rewriting itself. We're trapped in his story now. The ground shook. The sound of dragging footsteps echoed behind them. Thud, thud, thud. The mummy was coming. They entered a vast burial chamber. The floor was covered in dozens of canopic jars, each sealed with wax and etched with symbols. The air here was thicker, fouler. The stench of rot and age nearly choked them. Saphire examined one, her hands trembling. These aren't supposed to be here. They're human souls. As if her words awoke them, the jars rattled violently. One shattered, and a black cloud of insects burst out, scarabs, their shells glistening in the dim light. The swarm filled the air, clicking and hissing. Anna screamed as the beetles swarmed her legs, crawling beneath her clothes, biting her flesh. She tore at them desperately, but the more she brushed away, the more appeared. David grabbed her arm and dragged her up onto a ledge of stone. The others scrambled after him, kicking at the swarm. Saphire sobbed, shaking her head. This isn't real. It can't be real. A chilling laugh filled the chamber. The mummy's voice slithered from every shadow. It is real, and none of you will leave. The scarabs suddenly withdrew, vanishing into cracks in the floor. Silence returned, heavier than before. Imran cursed under his breath. I don't care what happens. I'm not dying here. There's got to be treasure, relics, something that can get us out of this. He sprinted across the chamber to a golden amulet resting atop a stone pedestal. Its surface glowed faintly, symbols shifting as if alive. Don't, Layla shouted. That's not treasure. It's his. But Imran ignored her. He snatched the amulet from its place and held it high. This is mine! Do you hear me? Mine! The amulet flared red hot, branding itself into his hand. Imran screamed as smoke rose from his flesh. His body convulsed, twisting unnaturally. Bones snapped one by one. His skin shriveled, cracking like dry parchment. Within seconds, Imran collapsed into a heap of desiccated flesh. Still alive, his eyes darting wildly in silent terror, but unable to move. Sophia covered her mouth, choking back vomit. He's been turned into another mummy. The amulet floated back to its pedestal on its own. Now only 4 remained. David, Sophia, Anna, and Layla. The walls shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. The sound of the Pharaoh's roar echoed through the chamber, louder, closer. Anna clung to David. We can't fight him. He's unstoppable. Layla's eyes hardened. There has to be a way. My grandmother said, no curse is eternal if you know where to strike. Sophia's voice trembled. And what if she was wrong? The torches around the chamber suddenly flared green again. The shadow of the mummy loomed across the wall, growing taller, more monstrous, until it filled the entire chamber. The pharaoh stepped into the room. His body was no longer skeletal, it was regenerating, flesh knitting itself together with every soul he consumed. His green eyes blazed like molten fire. He raised his hand, and the canopic jars rattled once more. The sound was deafening. David's heart pounded as realization struck him. The jars, just with an unnatural heartbeat, loud and steady, as if the stone itself were alive. Each thud vibrated through their bones, rattling teeth and sending waves of dread through their bodies. The pharaoh loomed before them, a towering abomination of sinew, decayed flesh, and glowing green fire. David's words hung in the stale air. The jars are his power. Sophia's eyes darted to the dozens of canopic jars surrounding them. There are too many. Even if we try, we'll never. A thunderous roar silenced her. The mummy lifted his hand. At once, the jars began to rattle and shake, lids cracking open. A foul stench of rotten blood poured out, filling the chamber with the stench of death. From the first jar, a severed, mummified heart floated upward, still beating with unnatural rhythm. From another spilled a blackened tongue, whispering words in ancient Egyptian. Another split open to release swarms of scarabs, flooding the floor once more. Anna stumbled back, clutching David's arm. This isn't real. This can't be real. The pharaoh's hollow laughter filled the chamber. Real enough to consume. The scarabs surged forward. They poured over the stones like a living river, clattering and clicking, their mandibles snapping. Sophia screamed as the swarm engulfed her legs. She tried to kick them away, but the insects crawled higher, sinking sharp jaws into her flesh. She clawed at them, tearing open her own skin in desperation. Blood splattered the stones as scarabs burrowed beneath her skin, wriggling under the surface. Her shrieks echoed until they turned into choking gasps. She collapsed, twitching, as hundreds of beetles erupted from her mouth and eye sockets. Anna and Layla screamed, horrified. David pulled them away. His voice cracked with terror. Don't look, just move. The swarm spread, covering Sophia's lifeless body before dragging it into the shadows. Now only 3 remained. The pharaoh stepped forward. With each stride, sand burst through the cracks in the floor. His voice boomed like thunder. Your deaths are offerings to me. Anna clutched David's arm, sobbing. We can't fight him. We can't. But David's eyes were locked on the jars. He noticed that each time one cracked open, the pharaoh's form grew stronger. His withered flesh filling out, his posture straightening, his power undeniable. He feeds on them, David whispered. The jars contain pieces of him, his soul, his essence. If we destroy them... Layla's voice cut in, sharp and steady despite her fear. Then maybe we can end this. The mummy's eyes glowed brighter. He raised his clawed hand, and one of the jars shattered on its own. From within, a ghastly scream filled the chamber as a swirling mass of shadows poured into him. His body swelled, his chest heaving with stolen strength. Anna's knees gave out. He's unstoppable. Nah. The chamber shook violently, and a fissure split the ground at their feet. From the crack poured molten sand, glowing like liquid fire. The heat seared their skin, forcing them back toward the walls. The Pharaoh laughed, the sound echoing through their skulls. You are but dust beneath my feet. Dave grabbed a torch and hurled it at one of the jars. The flame struck true, shattering the container. Inside, a shriveled organ burst into ash, the green fire extinguishing instantly. The Pharaoh staggered, letting out a guttural snarl. His form flickered, the flesh peeling from his bones. It works! David shouted. Destroy the jars! They scrambled into action. Layla seized a stone and smashed it down onto another jar. The wax seal cracked, and the contents, a cluster of blackened teeth, crumbled to dust. The Pharaoh roared, clutching his chest as his power weakened further. Anna, shaking violently, picked up a torch. She swung it wildly, smashing another container. A jar filled with dried lungs exploded into flame, the ash scattering into the chamber. For a moment, it seemed they had the advantage. But the Pharaoh was too powerful. With a furious howl, he slammed his clawed hand into the ground. A wave of force rippled outward, throwing all three of them against the walls. Stone cracked beneath the impact. Their torches flew from their hands, sputtering out. Anna gasped for air, coughing blood. I can't. Layla forced herself to her knees. Her body shook with exhaustion, but her eyes burned with determination. We can't stop now. We're too close. The mummy advanced on Anna. His shadow fell across her trembling body. He reached down, claws stretching. David screamed, Anna, move. But she was frozen, paralyzed with terror. The Pharaoh's claws pierced through her chest. Her scream cut through the chamber, raw and agonizing, before being silenced. The Pharaoh lifted her lifeless body, draining her essence in a torrent of glowing mist. His flesh rippled, healing, becoming whole. David fell to his knees, devastated. No, Anna. Her body dropped like a rag doll onto the stones. Only David and Layla remained. The Pharaoh's voice thundered, stronger than ever. You cannot win. Your lives are mine. Your souls my feast. David wiped the blood from his face, his grief twisting into rage. Then you'll starve, monster. He grabbed a fallen stone and hurled it at another jar. It shattered, releasing another burst of energy. The Pharaoh staggered, roaring in fury. Layla followed, seizing a broken spear from the wall and using it to smash two more jars in rapid succession. Each one burst into fire and ash. The Pharaoh screamed, his form flickering, his mask cracking down the middle. But still he endured, his glowing eyes fixed on Layla. You, the blood of Egypt, you will be my vessel. With supernatural speed, he surged toward her. David dove in front of her, taking the full brunt of the blow. Claws raked across his back, blood spraying. He collapsed, groaning in pain. Layla cried out, falling to her knees beside him. David, no! Stay with me. He coughed, his face pale. Finish it, break the heart, end it. The Pharaoh raised his arms, summoning the final and largest jar. It levitated into the air, glowing an ominous green. Inside was the source of it all, the Pharaoh's heart, blackened and shriveled, yet beating with unnatural strength. Layla's eyes widened. That's it, the Pharaoh roared, pulling the jar toward his chest to absorb it. My power, eternal. Layla leapt to her feet, grabbing the broken spear. She hurled it with all her strength. The weapon struck the jar, cracking it. A shriek of unearthly agony filled the chamber as green light burst outward. But the jar did not break completely. It wobbled, glowing brighter, mending itself. The Pharaoh laughed, though his voice trembled with pain. Futile. You cannot destroy me. Layla clenched her fists, determination burning in her eyes. We'll see about that. The chamber shook violently, the sound of cracking stone mixing with the Pharaoh's monstrous roar. The half-shattered jar floated in the air, glowing an eerie green. Inside, the blackened heart pulsed harder and faster, like it was alive, like it could feel their defiance. David coughed weakly on the floor, blood pooling beneath him. His skin was pale, his breath shallow, but his eyes still burned with desperate fire. Layla, listen to me. That heart, destroy it, or we're finished. Layla's hands trembled, but her voice was steady. I won't let him win. The Pharaoh towered over them, his form shifting, swelling as more sand poured in from the cracks in the ceiling. His flesh was nearly whole now, His obsidian mask cracked down the middle to reveal rotting, half-regenerated skin beneath. His jaw unhinged unnaturally wide, and his voice bellowed like thunder. You will not destroy what is eternal. Your souls are mine. You will kneel. Layla grabbed the broken spear from the ground, her knuckles white around the shaft. She looked at David, his body broken, but his spirit unyielding. He gave her a weak nod. With a deep breath, Layla lunged forward. She sprinted across the chamber, weaving between the remaining jars as the pharaoh's shadow lashed out like tendrils, swiping at her feet, her arms, her throat. She ducked, rolled, and rose again, her eyes locked on the floating heart. The pharaoh roared, swinging a massive claw down. The stone floor shattered where she had stood a heartbeat earlier, shards slicing her arm open. Blood dripped freely, but she didn't stop. "Layla!" David shouted, his voice ragged. "Now!" She hurled the spear with every ounce of strength left in her body. The weapon struck the jar dead center. Cracks spiderwebbed across its surface, glowing with blinding light. The pharaoh screamed, clutching at his chest as if the damage struck him directly. His form flickered, sand pouring from his body like blood. But the jar didn't shatter. Not completely. It hovered in the air, shaking violently, sealing itself again. The green glow intensified, bathing the chamber in a sickly light. The pharaoh's laughter returned, though weaker this time. "You cannot kill what death itself obeys. I am forever." Layla fell to her knees, despair washing over her. "It's not enough. We can't break it." David groaned, forcing himself onto his elbows despite the agony racking his body. His voice was hoarse but steady. "There's only one way." The curse said it. Break the heart. Seal the curse. His eyes met hers. Pain, fear, but also acceptance. "You have to use me," he whispered. Layla shook her head violently, tears streaming down her face. "No, don't you dare say that." David coughed blood, forcing a broken smile. "If the pharaoh feeds on souls, then give him mine, but make it the last one he ever takes." The pharaoh advanced, his glowing eyes locking on Layla. Yes, yes, child of Egypt, bring him to me. Let him feed me. Then you, too, will kneel." Layla's heart pounded. She could barely breathe. But deep down, she knew David was right. There was no other way. With trembling hands, she helped David to his feet. He was barely standing, leaning heavily against her, but he gave her one last nod. "Do it," he whispered. "End this." The pharaoh spread his arms wide, his claws gleaming. "Come to me, mortals. Your fate is already written." Layla staggered forward, dragging David with her. The pharaoh's shadowy tendrils reached out like serpents, wrapping around them, pulling them closer. The air grew freezing, heavy with the stench of decay. David gasped as the tendrils pierced his chest, his body convulsed, his soul beginning to tear free. The pharaoh inhaled green fire spilling from his cracked mask as he absorbed David's essence. David screamed, but through his agony he shouted, "Now, Layla, break it!" Summoning the last of her strength, Layla tore the amulet from around the pharaoh's neck, the same cursed relic that had enslaved Imran, and hurled it against the jar containing the heart. The amulet exploded into shards of molten gold. The jar shattered completely, the heart within bursting into flames. A torrent of green energy surged outward, engulfing the pharaoh. He roared in agony, his body unraveling, flesh turning to dust, bones collapsing into sand. The chamber shook violently, the walls cracking and collapsing. Statues of Anubis shattered into rubble. The remaining jars burst one by one, releasing screams that faded into silence. The pharaoh's final cry echoed like thunder. "I will return." And then, silence. The mummy was gone. "You shouldn't be here, Emily." His voice whispered, not from inside the room, but right in her ear. She spun around, but the hallway was empty. Her pulse